Despite having lost her son and never ceasing to search for him, 5 years later, when she became a nanny in a mansion, she had no idea what fate had in store for her. On a sunny and pleasant day, she began a new chapter of her life as a single mother, without the support of her family or the father of her baby, who had abandoned her upon learning of her pregnancy. She was determined to care for little David with all her love and affection. After spending a few days in the maternity ward recovering from a cesarean section, the young woman was finally ready to take her baby home. Filled with hope and expectations, she left the maternity ward with her son in her arms, trying to balance his diaper bag and her belongings as she walked through the streets. The excitement of being a mother and the responsibility of caring for an innocent life completely overwhelmed her. The breeze caressed her face, and she felt that despite the difficulties, everything would turn out fine. However, suddenly, a black car approached at high speed and stopped abruptly next to her. Before she could react, a man got out of the vehicle and placed a black hood over her head, leaving her terrified. The poor girl felt her small child being ripped from her arms. She screamed desperately, "My baby! Give me back my baby!" as she struggled with the kidnappers. The young mother's cries and the desperate wails of her little one echoed through the streets, but no one seemed willing to help. Panic took over her body, and in a final effort, she tried to break free, fighting relentlessly. However, a blow to the head caused her to lose consciousness. When she woke up, she was lying in the middle of the street, her body aching and her soul shattered. The pain from the cesarean seemed even more intense now, but it was nothing compared to the anguish of having her son stolen from her. Desperate, the young woman got up and started running, stopping people she encountered along the way, pleading, "They took my son. Please help me." People looked at her with pity and disbelief, but no one helped. Her pain and despair were palpable, and every word was a cry for help. Exhausted and not knowing what to do, she fell to her knees on the ground, feeling the rain beginning to fall, mixing with her tears. The poor mother looked up to the sky, begging for a miracle to bring her son back, and she remained there, kneeling in the rain, as her soul shattered into 1,000 pieces. Thus, 5 years passed, and she never stopped searching for her little one. However, life continued its course, leading her down paths she never imagined. The girl had always been a good, kind, and attentive person with a huge heart full of love to give. Unfortunately, 5 years earlier, she got involved with a man who seemed like her Prince Charming but turned out to be a piece of trash who abandoned her when she needed him the most. After losing her baby David, the young woman went through a long period of mourning and almost collapsed emotionally. She took medication to control the unbearable pain she felt, but she still couldn't stop suffering. The recurring nightmares of that horrible day haunted her, and she often woke up screaming, her heart racing and hands trembling. Her life had never been easy, as her family was not united, and she was an only child. When they found out she was pregnant, her parents kicked her out of the house, leaving her alone and homeless with nowhere to go. Jolly had to make do by working poorly paid jobs to support herself. The poor woman faced daily difficulties, living in a small, leaky apartment, barely managing to buy food and clothes, and spending sleepless nights. Thinking about her lost son, loneliness was her only companion, and the hope of finding her baby was the only thing that kept her going. Despite all the challenges, that young mother never lost faith. She continued to work hard, saving every penny, dreaming of the day she could hire a detective to search for her little one. Giving up was not an option. She was determined to fight until the end. However, in the meantime, she needed to find a job, as her last position hadn't worked out. One day, while flipping through channels looking for work, she came across an ad that caught her attention. A wealthy family was looking for a maid and nanny to work in their mansion. The salary offered was much higher than she had ever earned, and provided the perfect opportunity to save money and resume her search for David. With a heart full of hope, she put on her best clothes, fixed her hair, and called to schedule the interview. Shortly afterward, she made her way there. Upon arrival, She was awestruck by the imposing residence before her. She marveled at its opulence and beauty, imagining what it would be like to live there. However, she also felt a bit intimidated, suspecting that the people in this house might be snobby and rude, like most of the wealthy individuals she had encountered in her life. When she rang the doorbell, a handsome man with blue eyes and a contagious smile opened the door. "Hello, you must be Jolly. I'm Andrew, the father of the child you'll be caring for. Please come in," he invited, beginning to show her around the house. The rooms were luxurious and well decorated with artwork and fine furniture, which only heightened the young woman's nervousness. They reached the living room where the interview would take place, and she sat on the sofa, trying to stay calm as she answered Andrew's questions. "Oh my, he's so handsome," she thought to herself, finding it hard to take her eyes off the man before her, who, in addition to being very attractive, exuded friendliness and kindness. Contrary to her expectations, the wealthy man was neither arrogant nor aloof. He asked about her experience and skills, and she explained how she had always been passionate about caring for children. Then, Andrew shared his situation. "I'm just trying to spend more time at home and work remotely to be closer to my young son. He's only 5, and I don't want to miss this stage of his life. However, my wife can't care for him, and they haven't gotten along for a while." Jolly listened attentively, trying to understand the family dynamics and how she could help. Suddenly, a woman entered the room carrying the child in her arms. She was elegant, with an air of royalty and arrogance, but she seemed deeply irritated. Without ceremony, the woman said, "Oh, you're the new nanny? Take this child, take him now." Surprised, the young woman replied, "We're still in the middle of the interview, ma'am." The wealthy woman didn't care and responded, "I don't care. Just take the boy and leave." Andrew apologized for his wife's behavior, explaining that she was stressed and that their son had never liked her, something he didn't understand. Then, he introduced the little boy to Jolly. "This is Pietro, my son. Say hello to her, big boy." To everyone's surprise, the small child immediately ran over and sat on Jolly's lap, and she welcomed him lovingly into her arms. The father watched the scene in amazement, noting the instant connection between the two. "I've never seen Pietro warm up to someone so quickly," he commented, smiling. "I really like children," Jolly said, playing with the boy. The tension in the room eased, and it was clear that this could be the start of a new chapter not just for her, but for the whole family. The manager continued the interview, asking more questions about Hallie's expectations and availability. As they spoke, she felt increasingly at ease, and her bond with Pietro only grew stronger. Without hesitation, Andrew turned and said, "I'm impressed with how you've connected with my son. The job is yours if you want it." "Seriously? Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew," she replied, beaming with joy. The following day, very early in the morning, Hallie was already back at the mansion to start her job as a nanny. Her days at the house were filled with hard work and dedication, but she felt more comfortable and happier being part of little Pietro's routine. It was remarkable how much the child liked her, astonishing his father in various situations. He saw his son playing and laughing with the nanny as she taught him to draw or read him stories. Andrew couldn't hide his satisfaction at seeing the connection between them, but he was also saddened by his wife Siren's distant relationship with their son. Siren didn't seem to care about the growing closeness between Hallie and Pietro and was increasingly absent. This attitude troubled Andrew, who worried about the well-being of his young son and their family. Several times, Hallie arrived at work to hear the couple arguing in the office. "Don't neglect him, Siren. He's your son, and you treat him like a stranger," Andrew said with frustration. "And what about you? You're not always around either. Besides, we have a nanny now. Isn't that enough? I want to rest. I'm going to Greece tomorrow with my friends for a month." "I don't care," Siren replied, dismissive of her husband and son's feelings. Andrew, disgusted by Siren's sudden attitude, was left perplexed and upset. Though he was angry with his wife, he knew he needed to stay focused on his child and his work. The presence of Hallie, who cared for Pietro with such dedication and love, brought a bit of peace to Andrew's heart. As the days passed, the businessman observed how Hallie treated his son with kindness, always using gentle words. She even started caring for Andrew, cooking for him because she knew he was too busy with work to prepare his meals. These small gestures gradually made Andrew feel increasingly enchanted with her, although he struggled to contain his feelings since he was still married. Friendly and kind conversations between the two became common, making life in the house even more pleasant. "Thank you for taking such good care of Pietro. You've brought light into our home," Andrew said, smiling. "I am honored to help, Mr. Andrew. He is an incredible boy, and I love spending time with him," Hallie responded sincerely. However, something in the millionaire's heart was changing. He found himself looking at Hallie and Pietro more often, wishing his family could be as united and loving as the relationship Hallie had with his son. One day, Hallie was at the mansion with Pietro when Andrew came home with a new haircut. It was very short, and somehow, he looked even more handsome. Seeing him, she couldn't help but think, "Wow, he looks so good like that." Pietro, excited, started saying he wanted his hair cut like his father's. "Really, son?" Andrew asked, and the three laughed together. Andrew then approached Hallie, looking her directly in the eyes. "What about you, Hallie? Do you like it?" She blushed and felt embarrassed, but answered honestly, "Yes, it looks very nice." Satisfied with her response, the atmosphere between them grew even more romantic. Both felt their hearts race, but tried to contain the feelings that were emerging. Andrew suggested that the nanny take Pietro to the hairdresser to get his hair cut like his own. She nodded and said, "Let's go, Pietro." At the hairdresser, the little boy excitedly explained how he wanted his hair cut like his father's. Hallie watched attentively with a smile on her face, feeling a sense of contentment and happiness she hadn't experienced in years. She was about to say something when the hairdresser cut close to the nape of Pietro's neck and revealed a birthmark that astonished her. It was a small constellation of stars, identical to the one her son had when he was born. Her world collapsed in that instant, and she could barely breathe, but she tried to pull herself together. When the haircut was finished, the boy, proud of his new look, ran up to her and asked, "Hey Jolly, do you think it looks cool?" "Of course, my love," she smiled, hiding her emotions. "Your father will love it." The poor woman drove all the way back, unable to stop thinking about Pietro's birthmark and what it meant. Was it possible that he was her lost son? She felt fear, hope, and anguish. When they arrived home, she found Andrew in the living room, eager to see his son's new haircut. "Wow, you look amazing, big guy," he exclaimed. In that moment, their eyes met, bringing to the surface the feelings they had been trying to hide. She knew she needed to find out the truth, but was also worried about what it might mean for her relationship with the child and his father. Her heart was torn with conflict and uncertainty. After putting Pietro to bed, she went to the kitchen to gather her things and prepare to leave for the night. The little boy had been more energetic than usual and had fallen asleep later. Rain poured outside, creating a melancholic mood that seemed to mirror her feelings of anguish and doubt. As she collected her belongings, Andrew appeared in the kitchen, shirtless, which left her startled and amazed by his appearance. With a concerned look, he asked, "Are you leaving already?" She hesitated, looking down to avoid showing how attractive she found him. "Yes, Pietro is already asleep and I—" Andrew interrupted, stepping closer. "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for us. I know it hasn't been easy, but you've been incredible with my son and me." The young woman blushed and looked up to meet his eyes, which shone with sincerity and admiration. "Thank you, Andrew. I care about you both. I just want the best for Pietro. Please, just Andrew. No need to call me sir," he replied. In that moment, the tension between them grew, and they unknowingly drew closer. Their eyes locked on each other's lips, and she could feel the warmth of his breath. Then, as if inevitable, they surrendered to the passion consuming them. The kiss was intense and filled with repressed emotions, but reality soon set in, and they pulled away, breathless and embarrassed. "Hallie, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that," Andrew said, looking regretful. "No, I'm sorry too, Andrew," she responded. Unable to hold back her tears, the poor woman began to cry. Andrew, terrified he had done something horrible, asked, "What happened? Why are you crying?" Through her sobs, she decided to tell him her entire story, explaining her pain and the search for her lost son. As Hallie cried, he embraced her, trying to comfort her. She could feel his heart beating strongly in sync with hers. His embrace and his woody scent were comforting, making her tremble. Her tears soaked his chest, but he didn't mind. Andrew listened attentively as she recounted how she had lost her baby and how the birthmark on the back of Pietro's head made her suspect he might be the son she had been searching for. "The birthmark, Andrew, it's just like my son's. I don't know what to do. I'm so confused," she said, her voice trembling. She lifted her hair, revealing the nape of her neck and the constellation-shaped birthmark identical to Pietro's. "It's the same mark. How is that possible?" she thought. The father, Andrew, was deep in thought. He had always believed that Pietro was his and Skyron's son. So how could they have the same birthmark? Additionally, Pietro bore a striking resemblance to Andrew, which might explain the cold and distant relationship between Skyron and the boy. Andrew stepped back, and she turned, looking into his eyes. Despite his confusion and astonishment, he spoke gently, "I'm so sorry for what you went through. If there's any possibility that he's your son, we will find out the truth together." The young woman looked at him, surprised and grateful for his support. "Thank you. I don't want to destroy your family, but I can't help but think he might be my son." They realized that they would have to face this search for the truth together. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to fight for Pietro's well-being and to unravel the mystery that enveloped their lives. The growing feelings between them, despite the uncertainty and fear, strengthened them to face the unknown. Anxious, Andrew decided to have a DNA test done to confirm his paternity. He also took a strand of Skyron's hair from her comb and blood samples from Hallie. He sent everything to a trusted laboratory and waited nervously for the results. During the waiting period, Andrew and Hallie spent more and more time together, and their connection grew stronger each day. Finally, the results arrived. The millionaire and the nanny sat in the mansion's garden, holding hands, silent and hopeful. The postman arrived and delivered the letter containing the DNA test report. With trembling hands, Andrew opened the envelope and read the results in silence. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Then, with an incredulous look, he revealed that the test had confirmed Hallie as Pietro's mother and that Andrew was not the biological father. "Oh my God!" Hallie began to cry, unable to believe that she had finally found her little boy. Andrew, as confused as he was, embraced her and kissed her passionately. "We'll get through this together, Hallie. I love you," he said, looking into her eyes. "I love you too, Andrew," she responded, returning his passionate kiss. Overflowing with joy, they returned home, determined to confront Skyron and start a new life together. But as soon as they entered the mansion, they found Skyron sitting in the living room, oblivious to what had happened in her absence, already eager to exert her authority. "Oh, there you are, little maid. Fetch me some wine, will you?" she demanded, not noticing anything unusual. Hallie didn't flinch. "Skyron," she called out, showing the DNA documents. Skyron tried to lie, to deceive her husband in every possible way, even attempting to kiss him and insisting that it wasn't what he thought. Only when Andrew threatened to call the police and investigate further did Skyron coldly admit, "I took the child of a woman leaving the maternity ward to keep you, Andrew. I wasn't going to ruin my beautiful body with a baby. I needed to maintain our marriage to enjoy your wealth, right? You took 5 years from my son's life. From me, you monster." Hallie was enraged. Skyron tried to escape, but Andrew restrained her. Shocked and furious, they called the police. Skyron was arrested for kidnapping and defrauding the millionaire. With Skyrim out of their lives, Andrew, Hallie, and Pietro could finally be a happy family. United by love and the extraordinary circumstances that brought them together, they overcame adversity and built a home filled with love and joy. If you like this story, leave a like and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our emotional stories. A big hug, and see you in our next video.